I thought my mother-in-law was just hiding insurance policies from her husband. I was so wrong. What I discovered in that mail will tear apart not just their marriage, but potentially send someone to prison. Let me start from the beginning, because the context makes this entire situation so much worse. For the past 2 years, my mother-in-law Patricia has been having mail sent to the house I share with my husband Jake. Her excuse was that my father-in-law Robert doesn't believe in insurance and thinks it's a waste of money. Patricia used to be an insurance agent, so she kept policies on family members and made our house the default address to hide them from Robert. I hated this arrangement from day one. Not because of the policies themselves. Insurance is smart, especially with our healthcare system being completely broken. I hated it because I was being forced to help her lie to her husband, and lying in relationships makes me deeply uncomfortable. Jake and I are now low contact with Patricia for multiple reasons: political disagreements, religious conflicts, and her complete inability to respect boundaries. She's the type of person who uses her son as a personal therapist, calls him crying about her marriage problems, then gets angry when he suggests she should either fix things or leave Robert. Their marriage is toxic in that special way where two people should have divorced 30 years ago, but stay together out of religious obligation while making everyone around them miserable. They literally told my 8-year-old nephew his parents were going to hell for getting divorced, so you can imagine the level of dysfunction we're dealing with. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Last month, I finally had enough of the mail situation. Jake has Patricia blocked and refuses to contact her because he's trying to maintain his sanity, but I was tired of feeling like an accomplice in her deception. I decided to give her an ultimatum: change the address by the end of the month, or I'd tell Robert about the policies myself. Jake thought I was being vindictive and suggested we just throw the mail away, but I'm not going to potentially mess with someone's insurance coverage out of spite. Even if I can't stand Patricia, I don't want something horrible to happen and her not know because her mail got tossed. So I unblocked her number and sent a polite text: "Hi Patricia, I need you to change the mailing address for your insurance policies. Having mail come here that's meant to be hidden from Robert makes me uncomfortable. Please update the address by the end of next week." Her response was immediate and panicked: "Please don't do anything rash. Can we meet for coffee to discuss this?" That should have been my first red flag. Patricia doesn't do coffee meetings. She does screaming matches at Disney World and passive-aggressive Facebook posts about ungrateful daughters-in-law, but she doesn't do calm, reasonable conversations. We met at a Starbucks near her work. She looked terrible, dark circles under her eyes, hands shaking as she gripped her latte. This is a woman who normally looks put together even when she's having a meltdown. "I can't change the address," she said without preamble. "Why not? Get a P.O. box. Have it sent to your work. There are options." She was quiet for a long moment, staring into her coffee like it might provide answers. "It's not what you think." "What do you mean?" "The insurance policies. They're not exactly legitimate." My stomach dropped. "What does that mean, Patricia?" She started crying then, ugly sobs that drew stares from other customers. "I've been taking out life insurance policies on people without their knowledge. Homeless people, elderly patients from when I worked at the nursing home, people who wouldn't be missed or whose deaths wouldn't be investigated too closely. I felt like the world had tilted sideways." "You've been what?" "It started small," she whispered, wiping her nose with a napkin. "Just one policy on an elderly man who had no family. He was dying anyway, and I thought it would help with Robert's medical bills. He had that heart attack 2 years ago, and even with insurance, we were drowning in debt." I was staring at her, trying to process what she was telling me. "Patricia, that's insurance fraud. That's murder if you—" "I never hurt anyone," she said quickly, too loudly. Several people turned to look at us. She lowered her voice. "I never hurt anyone. I just chose people who were already dying, people in hospice care, people with terminal diagnoses. I had access to their information from my old job, and I knew they wouldn't last long." "How many policies?" 17. 17. I felt like I was going to throw up. "And they've been paying out?" She nodded miserably. "8 so far. That's how we paid off Robert's medical debt and bought the new car. That's how we've been living the past 2 years. I was sitting across from a woman I'd known for 6 years, a woman who'd taught Sunday school and posted inspirational Bible verses on Facebook, and she was calmly explaining how she'd been committing insurance fraud on an industrial scale. The mail coming to your house isn't for policies on our family, she continued. It's the paperwork for the other policies. Claims, payments, new applications. I couldn't risk Robert seeing any of it. Patricia, this is insane. This is criminal. You could go to prison for decades. I know, she sobbed. I know, but I don't know how to stop. The money has been so helpful, and Robert doesn't ask questions about where it comes from. He just assumes my old insurance connections are paying off somehow. I sat there in stunned silence, trying to wrap my head around the fact that my annoying, boundary-crossing mother-in-law was actually a serial insurance fraudster who'd been using my house as her criminal headquarters. What happens if I stop letting you use my address? I asked finally. The insurance companies will start sending letters to my actual address. Robert will see them and start asking questions. And if he opens them. She trailed off, but the implication was clear. So I'm supposed to keep being your accomplice forever? Just until I can figure out how to end this without going to prison. I left that coffee shop feeling like I was living in some kind of fever dream. I drove home in a daze, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do with this information. When I told Jake, he initially didn't believe me. Mom's not capable of something like that, he insisted. She's too scatterbrained to pull off insurance fraud. But then we started thinking about things that hadn't made sense before. How they'd suddenly paid off all their debt 2 years ago. The new car that appeared out of nowhere. Patricia's mysterious, consulting work that she never wanted to discuss in detail. The way she'd gotten defensive whenever anyone asked about her old job at the nursing home. We have to report her, I said. Jake looked stricken. She's my mother. She's a criminal, Jake. She's been using our house to commit crimes. We could be considered accessories if this comes out and we knew about it. But she never actually hurt anyone. She said she only chose people who were already dying. That you know of. And even if that's true, it's still massive fraud. Insurance companies have investigators, Jake. If they figure out the pattern, they're going to trace it back to our address. They're going to want to know why 17 different policies all use the same mailing address. We spent that entire night going back and forth. Jake felt torn between loyalty to his mother and doing the right thing. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare where every option led to someone's life being destroyed. The next morning, I made a decision. I called the insurance fraud hotline. I need to report suspected insurance fraud, I told the agent who answered. What type of fraud are you reporting? Someone has been taking out life insurance policies on people without their knowledge, using my address as the mailing address for the paperwork. The agent asked for details, Patricia's name, the insurance companies involved, the timeline. I told them everything I knew, including the fact that my address had been used without my permission and that I'd only recently learned the true nature of the mail. We'll need you to come in for a formal statement, the agent said. And we'll need copies of any mail you've received. I'd kept everything, thank God. 2 years' worth of insurance paperwork, all addressed to Patricia but sent to my house. The investigation moved quickly. Apparently, Patricia had been sloppy, using the same address for multiple policies, forging signatures, accessing records she shouldn't have had access to long after leaving her nursing home job. Within a week, investigators had enough evidence to obtain a warrant. They arrested Patricia at her work on a Thursday morning. 17 counts of insurance fraud, 8 counts of identity theft, and multiple counts of forgery. The local news picked up the story. Former insurance agent accused of $1 million fraud scheme. $1 million. She'd collected over $1 million in fraudulent life insurance claims over 2 years. Robert called Jake that night, absolutely hysterical. Did you know? He kept asking. Did you know what she was doing? Jake lied and said no, but I could see the guilt eating him alive. The fallout has been catastrophic. Patricia's been denied bail because she's considered a flight risk. Roberts had to hire a lawyer because authorities are investigating whether he knew about the fraud, apparently spending lots of unexplained money while claiming you don't believe in insurance raises red flags. Their house is being searched for evidence. Their bank accounts are frozen. Robert's been staying with Jake's brother because he can't afford the mortgage without Patricia's consulting income. Jake is devastated. He keeps saying he should have known, should have asked more questions, should have protected his mother somehow. But protected her from what? From the consequences of her own criminal actions? The worst part is the victims. Most of the people Patricia targeted were elderly, vulnerable individuals with no family to advocate for them. People in nursing homes, homeless shelters, hospice care. She preyed on the most vulnerable members of society and profited from their deaths. Some of them died under suspicious circumstances. 3 of the policies paid out within weeks of being taken out, which has prompted a criminal investigation into whether Patricia might have actually murdered some of her victims rather than just waiting for them to die naturally. I've been having nightmares about this possibility. What if my mother-in-law isn't just a fraudster but an actual serial killer? What if I've been unknowingly helping someone commit murder by accepting her mail? The FBI is now involved. They're reviewing death certificates, conducting autopsies on exhumed bodies, interviewing nursing home staff. Patricia's lawyer is pushing for a plea deal, but prosecutors think this case is too big, too egregious to settle quietly. Jake and I have been called as witnesses. We'll have to testify about the mail arrangement, about what Patricia told us, about our knowledge of her activities. Our marriage is under enormous stress. Jake feels like I betrayed his family by reporting his mother, while I feel like he would have let me continue being an unwitting accomplice to serious crimes. Meanwhile, the insurance companies are threatening to sue us for allowing our address to be used in the fraud scheme, even though we didn't know what we were facilitating. We've had to hire our own lawyer to protect ourselves from potential civil liability. I keep thinking about all those times I complained about Patricia using our address to hide insurance policies from Robert. I thought I was taking a moral stand about honesty in marriage. I had no idea I was actually taking a stand about not wanting to be an accessory to what might be multiple murders. The trial is set for next year. Patricia's facing potentially decades in prison. Robert's facing financial ruin and possible criminal charges. Jake's facing the reality that his mother might be a serial killer who used our home as her base of operations. And I'm facing the knowledge that for 2 years, I helped facilitate what prosecutors are calling one of the largest insurance fraud schemes in state history, all because I thought I was just dealing with typical in-law drama. So here's my question. If someone you trusted asked you to help them hide something seemingly innocent, and it turned out to be evidence of serious crimes, how much responsibility do you bear for the harm that was caused? And if reporting them destroys multiple lives, but potentially prevents future victims, did you make the right choice?